we're on the same page as Angelina Jolie on this one.
Oh my God, I wasn't expecting to interview a celebrity.
You know, they know Tom Jones, you know, but they don't always know what Wales is or where it's at.
I don't know if it's going to sound offensive, but 90 Day Fiancé.
We met in 2005 playing Xbox online.
What has been your proudest moment? Welcome back. This is the American Dream Podcast, and I'm here in the studio with a very special guest from Wales. Claire, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, when I was preparing for this interview, of course, I had to do some research, and I Googled Wales, and all I saw was castles.
Yes.
So, my first question, I just can't not ask you this.
Yes.
Were you born in a castle too?
No, I was not.
Okay. So, let's start with your background then, and your upbringing in Wales. I feel like you're such a unique guest on my show because I don't even know anything about Wales. I didn't even know a country like that existed. I'm sorry.
You're not the first. So I grew up, I was born and grew up in a small town in the valleys called Trinant. Very, very small. Everybody knew everybody else. And I lived there till I was 18.
Okay.
And then my mom had moved back to the big city, Cardiff, which is the capital city of Wales.
Okay.
And that's where she originally grew up. So she had moved back there. And so then I saw the opportunity and I followed her not long after when I was 18 because I figured, you know, the small town, you know, I worked in the factory, chocolate factory that was there, you know, growing up. And so I kind of wanted to broaden my horizons and see what the big city had for me. So I moved there and I had 2 children while I lived there. And then, you know, just normal, regular life. I worked as a learning support assistant. Here, I believe they're called teacher's aides.
Oh, okay.
So I was working with children with ADHD, learning difficulties, and it was wonderful. I loved that. And then when I was 32, I moved to America.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Why did you decide to move your life to America?
Okay. So my husband actually grew up in Battlefield, which is just outside of Springfield.
Okay.
Yeah, so we met in 2005 playing Xbox online.
Oh, wow. That's so unique.
Yes, so that was 19
You're
years ago.
You're a gamer.
Yeah, I was. Well, I was a newly single mom, and so my kids would be in bed and I would game at night. Links 2004, which was a golf game, and it was the only game I was good at, you know, and it was like the older population and just very chill and relaxed. And, you know, we would tee off and, you know, play our holes and just chat, you know, and with a headset and the microphone. And, you know, one day, and I think that the maximum players is like 4 players in a room. And so one day I just said flippantly, I just want to romance somebody, and so somebody romanced me. And so my now husband said, "Darn, girl, where do you live?" And I'm pretty sure I said, "Well, I'm too far away, you know." And so, but there was something, you know, there was something
click.
About him, something clicked. And so we played a few games and we realized that we had the same gamer friends, but had only met at that point in time. So I truly believe everything happens for a reason. So I kind of would set up a game, just the 2 of us, that no one else could join. And we would have conversations and, you know, we declared our love for each other before we knew what each other looked like. I mean, we just knew we were meant to be together. There were coincidences. His niece and nephew were the same age as my children. My mother's name is Elaine, and his mother's middle name is Elaine.
Oh, wow.
And we just found just little things like that over time.
Little signs.
Yeah. And so, you know, after a few months, you know, he sent a picture through snail mail, you know, and so it took a few weeks for me to get that, you know. And at that time, it was MSN. So I sent him a picture of me through MSN, and, you know, and we just happened to like what each other looked like, you know, and we didn't care anyway. We'd already declared our love for each other. And So we talked for a year through the headset, and we knew we had a mental connection. And I'm like, okay, we need to get this going. So I bought a ticket, and I flew here, and I arrived February the 18th. This was in 2006. Yeah, 2006.
Okay.
So I flew here to spend a week with him and his family. And, to get to know him on a more physical level, as well as, just being with him, because we longed for that. We just longed to be together. And the first night here, I asked him to marry him. I had,
You're a brave woman.
I was
straight
ready.
to the point. Are you going to marry me or not?
I had a 32 diamond ring. We'd talked about marriage. We talked about kids. I had a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, a boy and a girl. And I thought I was done with my family, when my husband didn't have children, and they're blessings. And I think everybody should have the opportunity, if they can, to have, children. So we talked about that. So we'd already talked about marriage, and I'm like, and I was going to wait, but on that first night, I was just so excited. So I remember I was in my pink silky pajamas. His friend and him had met me off the plane and took me back to his friend's house. And then we drove out to Marshfield the next day. So I'm like, I was too excited. I'm not waiting. So I asked him to marry me. And of course, he said yes. And that week was just amazing, and the connection that we had, we just knew. So after a week, I sadly flew home because I didn't want my children to meet a stranger, let alone bring them to a different country.
Absolutely.
And they'd heard me talk to him on the Xbox, and they'd talk to him also, my oldest one. And my mom, too. My mom put the headset on one day and she says, "How do I know you're not an axe murderer?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm just going to pay for a flight, come over and chop your daughter up." There's not like a million people in America that I can do that with. I'm just going to do that for your daughter. And, so my mother knew he had a sense of humor. And, of course, we had friends and family that were nervous, anxious, but we knew,
So you were here in America for the first time for a week.
I'd never traveled anywhere in my life. I'd never been outside of my little...
And you went to Springfield, Missouri.
And I came to Springfield, Missouri.
What did you think of it?
Well, I had to Google it because I had no idea where it was. I'd heard of New York, Chicago, all the big places, California. So I had to Google it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's in the middle of America. It was just wonderful. I mean, everything was just so open. And I had no expectations because I'd never thought of traveling anywhere or didn't even think about coming to America ever in my entire life, So that wasn't even a thought. And honestly, just being with him, I think my focus, we were just so wrapped up in each other.
You were focused on him more than the country and your traveling experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was great. We stayed with my mother-in-law, and they took me to Branson, and they took me to the tourist places.
Of course.
And it was just it was wonderful. But just being that personal time with him, and the accent here,
Howdy.
Yeah. And we call everybody, all Americans are Yankees, so you're all Yankees. And my husband's like, well, I think we're more hillbilly, than the Yankees. But I really, I just noticed the open spaces, being in the big city, and it's not as big as Springfield. But I really, my focus was just, just us.
Yes. So you went back to Wales, and then how did that process start? Because I'm imagining it's a fiancé visa that he had to send, and then you had to get a green card here.
Yes.
So how was that process for you? Did it challenge your relationship with him at all?
Not at all. No, it didn't. Nothing fazed us, our relationship. We trusted each other. I got back to Wales, and, there's magazines there. And they're like, oh, tell us your real life story. So I sold our story to a magazine to get the money for the visa, for his fiancé visa. I'm like, I just want to be with him. So we transferred the money. He came over, so he got the fiance visa.
So he flew to Wales.
Yeah, so he had to come to Wales. The deal was he had to come to Wales and live with me and my children. I didn't want to uproot my children and bring them to a strange country and meet a stranger.
Oh, okay.
So the deal was that he was going to come and live there. And we didn't know where it was going to go from there. We just wanted to be together. We could have ended up living there. So we got the fiancé visa. We got married. He arrived July 18th. We got married August 18th. And then we found out we were pregnant just after the wedding. So it was all just very...
Big events,
very exciting. And so my husband's, we applied for him to get a work visa so he could work there. He decided that he wanted his child, his son, we knew we were having a boy, to be born an American citizen. And so we flew back here when I was 8 months pregnant.
Oh my God.
A 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and
I
8
cannot
months
imagine.
pregnant.
How long is the flight?
About 14 hours. It was 3 different planes.
Oh my God.
So from here to Amsterdam to Detroit or Atlanta, and then flew into Springfield.
That's
8
awful.
months pregnant.
Oh my God.
But it didn't faze me. I was just...
You were excited too?
Excited. I mean, it was just, and I'd asked my kids, we'd had a discussion, because they had friends in Wales. They were 10 and 7. And, I'd said, well, how do you feel about, moving to America? Is that something that you would want to do? And they were excited. They were all for it. If they'd said no, I would have said, okay, well, we're going to have to make something work, And I truly believe that my husband would have stayed with me, if we chose to stay there.
What about your family? How did they react that Claire is moving with her American husband to America? How did your mother react to that?
Well, my mother knew that my mother loves him more than she loves me.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it wasn't a problem.
So no, he was a big hit. But my mother knew that we would have a better life here. There would be more opportunities. It's a bigger country. I mean, you can drive from one end to the other. It takes a while. But my mother she was excited. She was sad because her grandchildren were leaving that she'd built a relationship with, and myself, of course. But she was excited, and they, people still had doubts, it's not going to work, but here we are. We celebrate 18 years of marriage this year, so...
Congratulations to you.
Yes.
So... Did she ever want to move to America, or she wants to just stay in Wales where she was born?
My mother, she's told me she would never move here because she has so many other grandchildren. I'm one of 5.
Oh, okay.
So I probably should.
So she's busy. She's not alone.
So I got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And
okay.
She's got grandchildren. So she's been here twice to visit. But she said she would never move here because, she has, and she's one of 10. So, yeah.
So not
big
only
family.
she's got, big family, not only she's got a lot of grandkids, but also lots of siblings.
Yeah.
So big family.
Yeah.
Never alone.
So, yeah. So she'll never move here.
So you moved here with 2 children, your American husband, and you're 8 months pregnant. Tell me, how were your first days in America? I feel like it's so challenging. You're preparing, to become a mom once again. Your children are preparing for their next sibling to arrive.
Yes.
And you are in a brand new country.
Yes.
How was it like for you?
In the beginning, it was exciting, but it was hard for me. I never learned to drive in Wales. And so I rode the bus everywhere. It was cheap, and they were past my house every 5 minutes. So I never had to drive.
Yeah.
So we moved to Marshfield, is where we started. And if you know where that's at, it's in the middle of nowhere. So I couldn't drive, had a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and about to have a newborn baby. But
and they have to go to school.
Yes. So for a while, it didn't sink in, But then after a while, we got the kids enrolled in school. They went to Rogersville, the neighboring city, and where my sister-in-law lived. And the plan was for us to move there eventually as well. So the kids were starting school, and I had the baby, and I couldn't drive. I would. In Wales, I would see my mother and my sister every day. I would walk everywhere. And now I'm stuck in a house, relying on other people to take me out to the house so that, I'm not stuck in the house the whole time. So it was harder for me, but at the same time, I was just, it didn't matter because I was with my husband, and my children.
So it was worth it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever missed your homeland? Have you ever thought maybe, I'm relying on other people here. Maybe I should go back where I have my mom to help with my kids and my culture is there? No?
That thought never entered my head at all. No.
So you were meant to be an American then?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I think and it didn't, like I said, it didn't matter as long as we were together. And, my husband didn't like it in Wales. He didn't like the weather. It rains a lot.
Oh, okay.
He didn't like the food. He lived on chicken curry and chips or chicken curry and rice. So he had a hard time adjusting there than I did here. So
how was your adjustment here in America? Tell me a little bit about that. And by that, I mean people in America, American holidays and food.
So the food, there's a fast food restaurant on every corner. In Wales, my nearest fast food restaurant to my house, I had to get on a bus to get there. It would take about 10 minutes. So we didn't eat fast food a lot, but here it's so cheap. My first meal here, my husband made me biscuits and sausage gravy, white sausage gravy.
Of course.
Oh my gosh.
Classic.
I was in love. I mean, it was so delicious. I'm like, where has this been my whole life? And so I'll try anything once, and I did. And in my house, all I had was salt and pepper and some brown sauce and maybe some ketchup, So my husband said that, I didn't season anything and the food was very bland, which is true. And we would have like fries and pizza, we would have fries or mashed potatoes and sausage. And it's just not food that he was used to. But here, I do like the southern food, the sweet corn and the green bean casserole and the sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving. But I think I adjusted better here than he did there. So, and the people, we would be driving down the road and, there'd be someone driving towards us and they'd wave. And I'd look at my husband and say, who's that? And he'd be like, well, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? They're waving at you.
And they smile to you too.
Yeah. And I just, because in Wales, nobody waves at you when they're driving, unless they know you. So it was just strange that everyone would just wave as they're driving or walking past. And everyone has been so friendly, And in Wales, the people are friendly also. So that was kind of nice to have that as well.
So you mentioned a little bit in the very beginning of this podcast that I am not the only one that doesn't know where you're from, like Wales.
Yes.
When you introduce yourself to people, let's say in the very beginning of your American journey, and you said, I'm from Wales, what did they say to you?
A lot of times people will say, well, where is that? And I'll say, okay, it's next to England. And, when I say that, a lot of people know where that is. Or people would ask me, I'd say I'm from the UK. When I realized people didn't know where Wales was, I would say I'm from the UK. And then people would think I'm saying Ukraine. They're like, oh, you're from the Ukraine. And I'm like, no.
Well, you have an English accent. That's strange.
Yeah, I'm from the United Kingdom. And, moving here, I put myself through school and graduated as a medical assistant. So for the last 14 years, I've worked in the medical field. And 15, 20 times a day for the last 14 years, people ask me, oh my gosh, where are you from? And a lot of the times they ask if I'm Australian.
Okay.
You know, and I do think I've changed my accent a little bit for my patients to understand me. And when I did meet my husband through the Xbox, he would say, okay, you have to slow down and enunciate what you say, because we talk very quickly.
Okay.
And sometimes when we web chat with my family members, my husband and even my youngest son will look at me and say, what did Nan just say? So I'm translating Welsh English into American English.
Yes. Yeah. So even though it's still English, they have trouble understanding you, it sounds like. What about stereotypes? Has anyone said to you anything about Wales, if there was a person that knew exactly where you're from, that was just not true?
I don't know that there's been that many people that have known where Wales is. I mean, it's just... Yeah, I don't know. And I know a lot of people think that, and sometimes I say I'm British, you know, and I think a lot of people associate British people as being like rude or arrogant or things like that.
Oh, okay.
You know? And if I do say Wales, some people will be like, oh, Tom Jones. You know, they know Tom Jones, you know, but they don't always know what Wales is or where it's at. So, but yeah, I don't encounter too many people that actually
You're
know.
lucky.
Yeah.
When I introduce myself to people and I say I'm from Russia, they're like, oh, you probably never get cold during winter. And you probably drink vodka all the time, too. And I'm like, yes, and I dance with bears. Yeah. Of course.
And I suppose alcohol, you know, they think the British people drink a lot of alcohol.
Really?
Yeah. The Irish in particular.
Oh, of course.
I mean, the Welsh do like their lager and their beer as well. But I think a few times when I have said that I'm British, people are like, oh, you guys like to drink over there.
Of course. So let's talk a little bit about initial challenges besides transportation that you have faced as a new immigrant. Was there anything else? How did you establish here in a new country?
We moved in with my mother-in-law and we got a lawyer so that we could start the immigration process. And then we had the baby. And my husband had a job to come to, so he was working. I was home with the children. And our plan was to move closer to Springfield, and so that we did that. My mother-in-law was very gracious, and she brought us into her home, and my sister-in-law as well provided everything for us. They had our room set up and ready. But living on my own since I was 18, it was hard to live under somebody else's roof. And so about 8 months after we moved here, we moved into Rogersville. And then I was able to walk to places. And then I needed a job. So, you know, I put myself through school and learning support assistants or teacher's aides here. I figured out don't get paid, you know, as much as we were in the UK. You know, and the cost of living there is much higher. So, you know, I'm sure the pay would even out, you know, but I wasn't thinking about that. I just needed to help my husband provide for our family. So got my driver's license, which was, I mean, too easy. My husband showed me how to drive, which I was nervous, and because I'd never drove a car. And went and took my test and I passed. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, in the UK, you have to have lessons by a driving instructor. And then they tell you when you're ready to take your driving test, you know. So my husband's like, okay, go take your test.
They kind of do this similar here in America, too, when I was in high school here in America. And they have the driving education class in Bolivar High School anyway that I took. And I had an instructor sitting next to me and telling me exactly how to drive and what to do, kind of just to practice.
Yeah.
And then they tell you that you are ready or you're not ready to prepare for the permit test.
Yeah, not Rogersville schools don't have that program. I wish that they did. You know, because my older two, we taught them how to drive, and then you know they went and took their tests as well. But it's I would like that. I think I would prefer, you know, everyone to do that, to have to do that, because you know, it gets a little crazy around here sometimes. And
So you got your driver's license and you're established here and you are working, you said, as a nurse? And
medical assistant.
Medical assistant. Okay.
Yes.
And what about your kids? How did they establish in a new society with American children? Did they make lots of friends or not?
They did. They adjusted to life here a lot quicker and easier than I did. They both lost their accents. My daughter lost hers within the first year of us being here. My son took a little bit longer because he was 10 when we moved here. But they made friends very quickly. We even had the school call me about my daughter and said, the speech therapist, and they said, we think your daughter might have, some speech issues. And I said, well, we've just moved here from Wales, and I feel like she's transitioning, into an American accent. And they said, okay, well, we still want you to come in and have a meeting. So, we went to the meeting and they said, oh, yeah, after listening to you, we understand
we see where it's coming from.
Yeah, she doesn't have a speech problem. She's transitioning, from how we spoke to how you guys speak. So they adjusted really well. Did they miss their friends back home? Absolutely, of course. And they still stayed in touch with them. But they adjusted pretty well. So I was concerned about that, but I didn't have anything to worry about.
What about Welsh holidays? Do you still follow some of the traditional holidays? For example, I know the St. David's Day.
St. David's Day, yep.
Yes, on March 1st. Do you celebrate that? Do you, embrace your Welsh root?
Yes. So March 1st, there must be more Irish settlers here because you guys all celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So the Welsh, the Scottish, and the English also have our saints. So St. David's Day, we wear, I have something that I'll show you later that's traditional for that. But we celebrate St. David's. I try to have my children celebrate as well. We wear red. Daffodil is the daffodil is the flower of Wales, and the leek is another emblem of Wales. And so I would try and wear a daffodil or something red, or I made a leek once, out of material, and I would pin it to my top. So I do try to, celebrate that every March 1st.
And your husband follows those traditions, or does he not care?
He doesn't care.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, he cares that I care, but he doesn't, wear the daffodil and the red, But he recognizes it, with us, but...
Your story is one of a kind, and you're definitely the first, I don't know if it's going to sound offensive, but 90-Day Fiancé.
I feel like, and I tell that to everybody, I feel like we are the first 90-Day Fiancé, or even Love is Blind, because we loved each other before we knew what each other looked like. And I tell that to everybody. I worked for a doctor once, and I think it was my first day there, and he said, oh, have you ever seen 90-Day Fiancé? And I'd never watched an episode of that in my life. And he was telling me about some of the contestants on there. And, after he heard my story, he said about the 90-Day Fiancé. I said, yeah, we're the original 90-Day Fiancé.
Yes, yeah. No, that show, oh my God, I hate when I'm being compared. That's why I said, I hope you're not going to find it offensive because...
No, not at all.
That show is just not a great example of that 90-Day Fiancé experience as an immigrant because it's still challenging and they just portray it not in the best light.
Yeah,
I'll put it like that.
And I've only seen a few episodes. I've really not sat down and watched it. So I've only seen a few episodes, and it's just not how our story was. Our story was just...
I feel like they're on purpose find people who are more aggressive and dramatic because, of course, for the show purposes to make it interesting. But it's definitely not the best choice for, the stereotypes and other immigrants who are coming here on 90-Day Fiancé visa.
Yeah.
And I just find it so annoying almost that that's the way they portray other immigrants who are coming here to marry Americans.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about American Dream now. This is what this podcast is about. So I always ask my guests, do you believe in American Dream? Does American Dream still exist here in America? in your opinion?
I think so. I think the American dream is the big house, the successful career, the family, and I had never thought about wanting to live the American dream. I never wanted to leave the country. That thought never entered my mind. But I feel like I live the American dream every day. I'm here with someone that loves me, and we have our family, and we don't have a huge house or anything. But I feel like I think it's still real. I think people do, want to look for the American dream. It just happened to end this way for me. I wasn't looking for anything, and here I am.
So do you still have an American dream, or are you living it at this point?
Yeah, I feel like I'm living it. I feel like I just take it one day at a time. I'm happy. We are happy and healthy, and I just, I don't take anything for granted. I would like to travel as much of the States as I possibly can, and we've done some of that. But I feel like I live it every day. I feel very fortunate, that there are people out there that are seeking the American dream. And I think it's different for everybody. I think the American dream is not the same for everybody. This is my American dream.
And before we step into our break, what has been your proudest moment of achieving and living your American dream?
My son is 28. I'm so proud of him. He is active military, U.S.
Your son is?
For America. And he's currently stationed overseas with his wife, who is also active military.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm very proud that I was able to, he's able to do that. He serves this country, being Welsh born, and it just makes me proud that I've been able to, I'm living back in Wales. I'm not sure that opportunity would present itself. I don't know, because we, aren't there. So I think just seeing my kids be successful, and just making us proud.
And what advice would you give to other immigrants from Wales in, terms of coming here to America and trying to achieve their American dream?
If life is short, if you want something, go through the proper channels. Immigration is not easy. It can be expensive and long. Just because I married American didn't make me a citizen. We had to go through the whole process.
Which is exactly what Americans don't know. They think immediately as soon as you marry someone American, you become a citizen.
Yeah.
And I always get so aggressive about it because I'm like, no, this is not true. You get a green card, but you don't become a citizen.
Yeah, we had to apply for green cards, once we heard, and work permits for myself. And it's a long process. And just, if it's worth it. If you have to dream. You have to have dreams. And like I said, I'm living mine right now, and just do it. Life is short.
Welcome back. You're listening and watching the American Dream podcast. I'm here in the studio with Claire from Wales. And by the way, is Claire your real name, or is that an Americanized nickname that you chose?
That is my real name, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just making sure. We're about to take an imaginary trip back home to Wales. And I know nothing about that country, so I'm just going to leave it up to you to guide me through this travel process. Okay. So first question is, what makes Wales a special destination for travelers, in your opinion?
Definitely the castles. There are a lot of castles, especially in Wales. And where I lived before I moved here, Cardiff, we have a castle in the middle of the city centre. So if you can imagine Battlefield Mall, that's the castle. And then the shops are just all around the castle. So people sit out on the grass eating their lunch, and you can go inside the castle, and go up in through the castle walls. You can go up in the tower, up to the top. But it is just right. It's just in the middle of the city centre. It is the coolest thing.
Wow!
And they are dotted all over Wales. The history. They are so old and just mesmerising. The stained glass that are inside the windows is just. It's just beautiful.
So for the first time traveler like me, where should I land in Wales and where should I start my traveling experience around that country?
Cardiff is the capital city. There's a lot of hustle and bustle there. If you like, to be busy, there's different things to see there. Like I said, you can go see the castle. Not far from there is a castle called Castle Coch, and it's up in the hillside, and it looks like a fairy tale castle, like you see on the movies. They've got the high towers with the rounded tops, and then there's actually a place which isn't far from Cardiff called St Fagans. It's got all of the older houses from years ago. My husband's 6'2", and he has to duck to get inside the doorways. So you get to see how they lived and all the utensils. If you are going to go to Wales, that would probably be, one of the good places to go. There's beaches. West Wales is a good place to go for if you want to go to the beach. But just everyone is welcoming and friendly, and it doesn't matter where you go. I think you're going to have a good time.
But start with the capital.
Yes.
And then what is the best way of transportation to kind of see the whole country? Is it train? Is it renting a car? Is it meeting someone local?
Buses and coaches are good. Especially in Cardiff, they have a tour bus where there's no top. It's a double-decker bus. And there's no top, just the seats. And they take you around the city on a tour.
Interesting.
And they tell you all about the city and the history and things like that. If you want to travel more up to North Wales, West Wales, renting a car is probably your best option. But it's just fun, hopping in on and off the buses, or a train can take you, down the coast to, the next town that has a beach. So either bus or train, I think, because the different people that you will meet, just riding on those is just...
And how expensive is it to travel to Wales? Because you mentioned that the cost of living there is pretty high.
Yeah.
It's higher than here in America.
Yeah.
So how expensive is it going to be for an American tourist to travel to Wales?
It has gone up. It used to be pretty affordable, but just like everything else, prices have gone up. And I actually went back twice last year, and I want to say for myself, round trip was like $1,500.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a little more, $1,600.
Without plane tickets?
That's just the plane tickets.
Oh, that's just the plane tickets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like that's a pretty generic price for such a long flight process.
Yeah.
But what about inside the country? What is the currency in Wales?
It's probably close to the dollar.
Okay.
It used to be. I know when I first came here, I would get $2 for my pound, close enough to that. But now it's pretty much the same. A pound might be like $1.20 or something like that. So, and the houses, when I lived there, my mortgage was $1,000 a month. Whereas,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Back then?
Back then,
oh, wow.
for a tiny house, when my living room was probably as big as this room right here. So I cannot imagine
the prices now.
With what they have gone up here, what they would be there. When you go to the store, everything is it seems to be the same price when I lived there. Nothing seemed to have gone up that way. But I think properties have gone up. Transportation, I think when I went back, we caught the bus, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is like twice as much as when I lived here. So, and I've been gone 18 years, so it's not surprising.
How much is it to ride a bus right now in Wales?
I want to say it was like £1.50, so maybe like $1.60, $1.70 to go from my mother's house into the city centre, which is probably 30 minutes on the bus, depending on traffic.
And if you rent a car, it's going to be like... How much per day, do you think?
Oh, gosh. I wouldn't even...
No.
I've never rented a car, so I wouldn't even like to guess that.
Wow.
I have no... But if you know someone or have a family member that can chauffeur you around, they can take you to all the non-touristy places, you know, that people miss out on and things like that.
So if you're planning to travel to Wales, be ready that it's not going to be cheap.
I don't think so. If you're traveling by bus, train, and gas prices, just like here, have gone up as well. So if you're renting a car, you have to put gas in it also.
Absolutely.
So, you know, keep that in mind if you do travel. I'm not saying don't go there. You know, I'm just saying be prepared. You know, everything's gone up like it has here also.
So considering that it's expensive to travel to Wales and around Wales, what is the best way to see the country? Is it with someone local, like you mentioned? Do you have to get in touch with like a tourist guide first to make sure that you are, you know, hitting all the spots and don't waste your money and time? Or is it best to just land in the capital and walk around?
Yeah, I think it's just the best, just to walk around, or like I said, hop on a bus and, you know, go to the next city and just experience it that way.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the sights to see while in Wales. What are some of the destinations or maybe little towns that tourists should see and often overlook?
Haverfordwest is on the west side of Wales. I think that I've never been myself, but I've heard that that's a good place to visit. It's right there on the coast. 30 minutes from my mother's house was a little beach town called Barry Island. We would go every year. We would have a coach that took us from the valleys. There would be like hundreds of us going from our little village to Barry, and we'd all hang out on the beach and things like that. So that I think now over the years it's got a lot better. But I think that's a good. And Porthcawl is another one that's a little further down the coast. I think most tourists go or gravitate to the capital because it is the capital city. But there are places up in the valleys that, if you didn't know about, are just beautiful. There's a forest drive that's not far from my sister's house, and you can just drive up through the forests and just have a picnic there. But I just hop on a bus. But like I said, if you have someone that knows those back roads, I mean, it's good to travel with someone that know those.
What about the weather in Wales? You mentioned a little bit that the weather in Wales is not great. It's kind of bipolar, like in Missouri. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
But it does rain a lot. The summers, I want to say the hottest it gets is maybe high 80s, low 90s, you know, and that's maybe for 5 days out of the year. I mean, it's not consistent like it is here. Like we'll have 90-degree weather for a whole week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Or 3
and then
months.
100 then 100 degrees for a couple of months.
Yes.
But it's dark and gloomy, cloudy, and just rains quite a lot.
Okay, so what is the best time of year to travel to Wales?
Christmas is a good time.
Okay.
They don't always have snow. Over the years, I think it's just got less and less. When I was growing up, we had snowdrifts that were up to the top of the door. But as global warming has happened, you know, we really don't get much. So Christmas can be wet, but it's just magical. The city streets are just lined with lights, and it's just beautiful. Spring is another good time. You'll see all the little lambs out. Here, if you drive down the highway, you see a lot of cows in the fields. Whereas there, you're likely to see sheep. or lambs. You'll see the baby lambs and things like that. So that's pretty cool that you don't get to see, the sheep and the lambs every day.
Yes.
But,
so winter or spring?
Yeah.
But not the summer.
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's just, I think the weather's just going to be the same.
Yeah, it's going to be a waste of money to travel there and just sit inside of the hotel.
If you think you're going for, a sunny holiday, it's probably not going to, I hate to say it, but it's probably not going to happen. In my experience, living there till I was 32.
Yes. And speaking of holidays and interesting traditions to see, what are some cool traditions that Welsh people do that a tourist might see? And when is that happening? Once again, maybe St. David's Day?
Yeah, so some small towns may have a parade for St. David's Day. Where I lived, we really didn't have those. If there's anything royal going on, like a coronation or a royal wedding, we'll hang bunting from the houses, the windows, which are just flags. And the streets will be lined with these flags. And they'll set tables out, and we'll just sit at the tables that everyone, the whole neighborhood will come out and we'll eat. We get commemorative little cups. The kids will get cups or mugs. That's pretty fun. And there are still some villages that speak fluent Welsh. That's their first language.
Okay,
so we have the Welsh people. When I was in school, I was never taught the Welsh language, only to sing our national anthem in Welsh. And I know a few words here and there. But there are. But when my children went to school, they were starting to reintroduce the Welsh language back into the schools.
Okay. Can you teach me a little bit of Welsh language? I have never heard it in my life. I don't know what I'm about to pronounce, but I'm really curious.
Okay, so if you say, so Burada.
What is it?
Burada.
Burada?
Burada. Good morning.
Is it burada?
Yeah, burada.
Burada.
Yeah.
Burada.
And then pananda.
Pananda.
Good afternoon.
Pananda. Burada. Did you know that burada is actually beard in Russian language?
I did not.
That's why when you say that, I was like, burada? Do I have beard? Did I grow one? So burada is, you said good morning?
Yep.
And pananda is good afternoon?
Yes.
Interesting. Well, there you go. I'm ready to go to Wales now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a little bit about food too. So tell me about the cuisine in Wales. What are some of the dishes to try?
Fish and chips, definitely. I've tried many fish and chips here. The only place you can find good fish and chips is London Calling.
Shout out to Niels.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for bringing fish and chips to Springfield, Missouri. Indian restaurants. I love Indian food.
In Wales?
Your curries. Yeah. Your
That's
yellow
random.
curry. Mm-hmm.
How did that tie with Wales culture? Why is it Indian food?
We have a lot of Indian culture that live there. And so we have a lot of Indian restaurants.
Do you know why? Is there a history in Wales of why exactly Indian people choose Wales?
I don't know. I apologize. I don't know the answer to that question. But they're everywhere. I mean, and it's good food.
So it's kind of like Mexican food and, people from Mexico here in America.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never knew about that.
Yeah.
So it's Indian food to try and fish and chips in Wales.
Definitely.
Awesome. Okay. And finally, before we hop into another break, what is something that everyone should bring with them after their travel is, ended in Wales? A souvenir or an experience?
Souvenir. I have some things that I'll show you later, which is pretty cool. They have really awesome items that are made from Welsh coal. Wales is known for their coal mines. And so the Cardiff has an indoor market, and they sell everything in there. And they have this one little stall that sells hand-carved Welsh items, and I think that's pretty cool. And just it's just a great experience. The people are so nice and friendly, and if you go, definitely go and check out a rugby game. The Welsh are very proud, very passionate, and you can Google the Welsh national anthem. The whole stadium sings. I mean, it gives you goosebumps. It gives you chills. I mean, it's just, you have to hear it. I mean, it's just amazing. We see the games here, and you have someone sing the national anthem, and you see people, as they pan around, you see people singing with it. But the rugby games there are just, you have to Google it. Everybody just sings the national anthem, and it's just amazing.
So people in Wales are pretty patriotic people, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and they love their rugby.
Welcome back. You're listening to the American Dream Podcast. And this half of the podcast, I always recommend people to check out our YouTube, the American Dream Podcast, and of course, subscribe. This half is dedicated to the interesting items that my guests bring from their homeland, which in that case, it's Wales. We just finished traveling to Wales, and we brought some items from there for you guys to see. So, Claire, I'm going to leave it up to you. You can choose whichever item you want. I already see a statue of a dragon, which I'm very intrigued by, and I'm putting my laptop away. I'm leaving it up to you.
So I'm going to start with our flag. So we have the coolest flag, and it has a dragon on it.
Oh, wow. Let's put it over here on the table to, like this. Maybe.
So that is the Welsh flag.
That's awesome. So it's just white, green, and a dragon. Does it have any meaning?
It does, and it's, don't ask me.
So does the dragon represent anything, do you know?
It does. It all has a representation, but I should know this, being from Wales, but it's just a cool flag.
The colors of green and white are the colors of the Tudor family. Tudor?
Tudor.
Tudor family. Okay. A standard featuring the red dragon was used by Henry VII at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. I just Googled it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So you brought a flag, and did you brought it last time you visited Wales, or was it always with you when you moved here the first time?
This belongs to my youngest son. I believe my mother had mailed this to him so he could have a part of Wales.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Okay. So it's usually kept at your son's
In
house.
My son's room.
Oh, in your son's room.
My youngest son.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And then I see the exact same dragon, it seems like, over here on the table, too. Yeah. It's a statue.
So this is a piece of coal. So this is what I was talking about. So this is a piece of coal, and it was hand carved. And this piece of coal came from Tower Colliery, which is one of the coal mines in Wales. He's very delicate.
Can I touch this?
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. And this is all coal?
That's coal. That's carved out of a whole piece of coal.
This is impressive. Oh my God. And you can get that item while in Wales, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Can you witness people make that?
I've never seen anyone carve it or make them.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a little stall that I know in the indoor market in Cardiff, which is where I got that one. And I actually bought my mother-in-law one when I came over here to spend a week with them. I brought them all a little gift because I didn't want to come empty-handed. And I brought her a carved piece of coal. And she loved it. Yeah. And I don't think I realized that that if you're bad you get coal at Christmas. That's not something that I knew.
That's right. Yes.
So in Wales I'd never heard that before.
But this is the coal you would want to get on Christmas.
This is the coal you would want to get for Christmas. Yes.
Do they only carve dragons out of coal, or is there other items that you can also get?
They'll carve miners lamps, maybe love spoons. The Wales, they like their love spoons. They're typically carved out of wood, and people just keep them in their houses. But I want to say that they do carve love spoons out of coal as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, and cool.
This one is yours, right? You brought it last time you visited Wales?
My dad actually gave me that in 2012 when we visited in 2012.
This is awesome.
Yeah, that sits behind glass at my home.
Yeah, so no one touches
no
it.
dogs, no grandchildren. Yeah, don't touch my dragon.
Awesome. So you have a flag, a statue of a dragon, and I see a doll. What is that doll? I'm always creeped out by dolls. I'm not going to lie.
And her little eyes move. So this is a Welsh lady.
Okay.
So years ago, this was their traditional wear.
Uh-huh.
They would wear the hat, the shawl, and on St. David's Day, when you're in school, the young ladies, the girls, would wear this traditional outfit for St. David's Day, and the boys would dress up as miners. Or they would wear a Welsh rugby shirt because it was red. And this little girl, I actually found her in a thrift store in a little city outside of St. Louis here.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Which was so bizarre. And so when I saw her, I just had to get her.
Yes, absolutely. You know, when I Googled pictures of whales, I actually saw people wear that.
Yes.
Still there. I believe it was probably St. David's Day or something. And they were dancing by the castle in that clothes.
Traditional clothing.
That's so unique. How many pieces of clothes is that?
So there's a skirt, and they'd have a white blouse underneath, a shawl on top, and a little apron, and then a hat.
And for men, it's probably different?
Yes, the men, they would wear a little die cap, which is a flat cap, and probably just pants, trousers, and then a shirt. But my daughter, we had a Welsh outfit, and we brought it with us when she was 7. It no longer fits her.
So it's like a little souvenir that you left.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's place our doll over here next to Oldie.
I don't know.
Does it stand? Nope. You can probably just put it against this pole over here that I have. Yep. Nope. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right. And so the last item that I see is newspapers?
Yeah, these did come from Wales. So, you know, like I said earlier, no one had met playing Xbox online in 2005, let alone 2 people that lived halfway around the world. So I sold my story to one magazine, and then others picked it up. So this is our story. We had a photographer come out to our wedding and take pictures. We're on the same page as Angelina Jolie on this one.
Oh my God, I wasn't expecting to interview a celebrity.
Yeah, so
Claire.
I got home from work one day and there was a reporter waiting on my doorstep, and I'm like, oh, this is how the famous feel.
This is awesome.
Yeah, Xbox had found out and gave my kids a brand new Xbox 360 and some games. This guy right here, he's like Jay Leno, and so he got this little bit for his wedding. And we got this whole little section right here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Claire, I'm one lucky birdie. Birdie. What?
Yeah, this was the first magazine that we were in.
This is crazy.
And I keep these. Our kids like to read these. They like to pull them out and read them once in a while. And I do too. I love our story. And
wow. No, this is one of a kind of story. I've never heard of anyone meeting their significant other. Even still, like right now, it's 2024. I don't know anybody who met someone else like during their Xbox game, session. I'm sure people do now, but I have never met anyone like that before.
Yeah.
This is so awesome, and you truly have one of a kind story. I know I said it a million times already, but I am just mind blown by everything you said.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for visiting me today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the American Dream Podcast. For more episodes, subscribe on your favorite platform, keep dreaming, and see you next time.